I was 19 when I was first introduced to the parents of my then boyfriend, Tom Reycraft, who introduced them as Happy Joe and Pat the Bat. And why the bat? Perhaps it was Pat's uncanny ability to give us the play-by-play of a couple fighting 2 tables away at a noisy restaurant, all the while staying completely engaged in our conversation at our table. Pat continually impressed me with her incredible hospitality and thoughtful gifts, always a friendly greeting and a wonderful meal at a beautiful table. Pat set a wonderful example as a grandmother, calling all the girls Veronica or Twyla. She was involved in all the kids' lives and an absolute treasure when the kids were small and we needed an evening away. Her voice still runs in my head with her sayings about how every family works differently and they shine in other areas. Pat was known for her laundry skills. She could get a stain out of anything. Clothes were ironed and pressed. We'd pick up the kids in their jammies, and the clothes they had worn over were always clean and folded back in the diaper bag. Pat inspired me with her love of scripture and hymns and her faithful daily prayers for all of us. And those are some wonderful things about Pat. But my absolute favorite thing about Pat was her wicked sense of humor. Never mean, but always sharp, quick, and right on point. She loved to have fun. Maybe bats have fun too. I don't aspire to be an amazing hostess or laundress. I think that ship has sailed. But Pat has left me a legacy of loving Jesus, loving her family, and using humor to lighten the mood and bring joy to any situation. I was blessed to have her in my life.
Pat was my aunt and my friend. We were 10 years apart in age, and I have many memories of life with Pat. One of the big memories I have is when I was 9, she would have been 19. I was staying overnight at my grandparents' house, sleeping in Pat's bed while she was out with Joe and waiting for her to get home. When she got home, she did this and showed me she had an engagement ring. So Joe had proposed to her that night. That was pretty special. I have some kind of sad memories too that Pat was with. And the one I'm thinking of is when my little brother Johnny passed away suddenly. It was a very tragic day for my family. It was just a horrible thing. And we had gone to bed and were trying to sleep. And about 2 a.m., the doorbell rang. Here was Pat. She wanted to be with us, and she wanted to help comfort us. She took me the next day to Sears and bought me a dress to wear for the funeral, and we bought clothes for Johnny. She was a great comfort to me that day. So Pat, as we got older, she was a very good friend and a dear prayer partner. She would call me, I'm going to say almost every morning, and this is what she would do. Susan, it's Pat. And then she would say, how's it going? What's new? I've been praying for you. She really cared what was going on in my life so much. And so we prayed for each other, saw each other through some good times and bad times. Pat was a wonderful role model for me. She taught me about living life with kindness and gratitude. She was one of the biggest self-giving people I've ever known. So one of my memories, I think we all remember Pat, how much she loved a story, especially if it was funny. And we could be sitting in a group, maybe family members, and Pat would say, tell the one about, or remember that other one? And we'd tell stories, the same ones over and over, and laugh hysterically. She loved to laugh, and she had a great sense of humor. So, thinking about Pat-isms, of course, there was the every house works different, and there was the he shines in other areas that she would say. So I just have great memories. I loved her very much. I will miss her dearly, but I know I'll see her again someday, and that gives me great peace and joy.
We started dating at she was 13 and I was 14. Then we got married when she was 19 and I was 20. There was only one problem. I had to get my dad to sign for me. And the store was unbelievable with people. She would come in and work at the store, but she would many times deal with people that are hurting, be it whatever, what kind of hurt. But she would deal with it and pray for them, and it was unbelievable. Pat loved the Lord, would work with people that were hurting, and she had a real love for caring.
I think the most significant memory that I'll always have of Grandma Pat is that she would always tell Zach and I that she was praying for us, and I believe that she always was.
It's true.
Of course, there's a bunch of memories I have from my childhood with Grandma, but the way that we would interact in my adult life is very special to me. Grandma was a letter writer, and so was I, and we began kind of writing letters when I was at camp as a kid, and we would continue that throughout my life. She would usually be much more consistent about letter writing than I was, and would often send a care package for fall or Easter or things like that, which was always really special. It was really nice when Grandma finally learned how to text, because I do not live in Minnesota. I've never lived there. So being able to just hear from her more often was really special for me. I really remember her a lot of times just saying, "I'm praying for you," and telling me each and every morning that she was praying for me by name. And that was always really special. She'd always ask for prayer requests, and sometimes I'd be like, "Oh geez, what are my prayer requests?" Grandma's texting me, and I know that what I tell her will be prayed for. Another thing we shared via text was, for whatever reason, I started sending her videos of my rock climbing that I would do, and she would always just kind of be my biggest fan. I guess I figured, if anyone is going to think this is impressive, I think she will. Because compared to a lot of people's skill levels, and especially where I was at the beginning, it was not very impressive, but she was always so encouraging to me. And I remember I stopped climbing shortly after her death because of the pandemic, but the first time I went back after she passed, I just remember being like, who am I going to send these videos to now? Who am I going to have as my biggest fan? And that was just such a weird thing to have happen. Yeah, Grandma was always there for me whenever I wanted to talk or reach out, say hello. Overall, if I ever needed encouragement or just wanted validation for something, Grandma was always the person that you could text, and she wouldn't just say, "Oh, cool." She would, be delighted with you and celebrate with you. And one other thing that I want to share about my memories with Grandma is being with her at Johnny and Friends Family Camp. That was a really special time for me for many reasons, but it was especially wonderful to be with Grandma in that environment because, like I said, I'm not from Minnesota. I didn't get to see her every week at church. So to be with her, kind of with her church family or with a church family, and just to see how she would interact with everyone and be so kind to everyone she encountered was so special. And just to wake up every morning and be a little bit exhausted, but just know that I was going to go and see her at the welcome table and get a hug, and she'd ask me how I was just made that experience all the more wonderful. So I love Grandma. I miss her very much.
I have lots of special memories of my mom. A few in particular. Her sense of humor was always amazing, and to this day serves as lots of memories of funny stories and things that she would say. The other thing that I keep constantly hearing from our old customers at this grocery store was how kind she was and how caring, and the thank you notes and the letters of encouragement if they were sick or if they were hospitalized or whatever, and she would go visit them and just really showed much kindness to those people. And probably the most special memory for me is she would tell me every day and tell my wife Carol that she prayed for us. She prayed for us every day, prayed for our kids, would send me passages of scripture. This is my thought for you for the day, and just was really, really encouraging in our faith, and that's really special to me.
If I had to say anything about Gigi Pat, is that she embraced me as one of her own, and I definitely felt that. She made it a point to made me feel a part of the family, and embraced me in a way that she didn't embrace anybody else. You know, because was brought up to be more affectionate and hugging and kissing with my family, and obviously I know that's something that Pat Reycraft family doesn't really do, but I kind of feel like I kind of brought it in a little bit. But she always embraced me and gave me a hug, you know, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and really made me feel included. So she was very special to me, and we had a good connection, and I will always remember her for that great connection and that and embracing me like that. So and I can also say proudly that I'm the one who started Gigi Pat, Gigi Joe. So hopefully that term of endearment makes it just even that much more special. I love you, Gigi Pat. Miss ya.
When I think about Grandma, I think about what a spiritual warrior she was for myself and everyone who was fortunate enough to know her. As a lot of you know, she was a very intentional woman who kept a lot of things that ordinary people might think about throwing away. When I was a graduate student a few years ago, she actually mailed me some index cards I had written to her probably about 15 years prior. Since we were grandkids living farther away, she had us fill out prayer requests and praises for a period of time and mail them to her. As a struggling graduate student, I was deeply moved and encouraged to have received such a wholesome gift as a reminder of the prayers that were on my heart as an elementary schooler. The Lord used her in such a way that she could be so uplifting from elementary school through graduate school, even when I felt far from her. My favorite funny memory of Grandma involves one of her special recipes. I honestly don't know the name of this Midwestern treat, but I always called it Grandma Crack. It was that puff popcorn stuff that you can't really get on the East Coast, but she would bake it in this caramel coating. I don't know what it was, but it was delicious. And I remember Christmas, I would always be at Grandma and Grandpa's and sneak to the kitchen and grab a handful when I walked by. She mailed this to me several times throughout college, and the nickname Grandma Crack caught on very quickly among my college community. I'd walk up to my dorm room with a package from the address 30 Fairway Ridge Drive, and my friends would immediately get excited and say, "Is that Grandma Crack?" Then I would open the package and it would have like a bag of popcorn and a devotional book, like a Jesus Today, something very Pat Reycrafty, and a loving note from Grandma. And it always cracked me up and will always just inspire me. I'll just always aspire to be as intentional of a woman about showing love of Christ as Grandma was for me and everyone who she encountered.
I think of my mom as a person who had a lot of wisdom. She showed that in her words. I have a lot of things that I was told through my childhood, but a few highlights that I remember to this day and use on a regular basis are: he shines in other areas, that every housework's different, and that you can't be a doormat unless you lay down. I can still hear my mom's voice saying those things, and there's a little wisdom in there. She also taught me the importance of keeping a clean home. Didn't necessarily rub off, but she did teach me how to do it. I learned that you can clean between a carpet and a baseboard with a toothbrush. I learned how to spiff a bathroom. And I also learned from my mom that there's nothing a little shopping and ice cream can't solve. Or at least make it a little bit easier. There are things about my mom that I see in myself, and I'm glad that I'm like her in them. One of the biggest things I would say is we both had extreme need to not miss things. I think she could have coined the phrase FOMO, fear of missing out. So that would be her and I. We don't like to miss a party. We don't like to miss a gathering. We want to be part of everything, and we'll give up some of the important things in life so we don't miss anything. One of the things I admired so much about my mom, and I want to be like her in, is welcoming people to her home all the time. It didn't matter if it was an important holiday. It didn't matter if it was a family event. We were always welcome to bring friends, whether they knew them or not. We were encouraged to do that, and my mom and dad knew how to love our friends and to love whoever we brought into their home and to honor them by serving them. I love that about my mom. I also loved that my mom valued her enduring friendships, people she knew for years and some that she didn't even know that long but became, in a sense, old friends. They meant so much to her, and she would know how to encourage them with her words whenever she saw them. She would pray for them regularly, and she would send texts, and she knew how to love people, and she knew how to be a great friend. I love that about my mom. She also knew how to invest in both extended and immediate family. I read so many comments and beautiful notes regarding my mom in these last couple weeks when we started posting about this service, and over the last year. So many people that were touched by her kindness, so many people that were encouraged by her, how she remembered them or their kids and remembered to pray for them. I think that's an awesome thing that my mom valued those friendships to the point of remembering them and taking them to the Lord. So that was an awesome thing. I learned from my mom what it means to be a faithful wife and to honor a husband. I need to get better at that, but I know that my parents were the greatest example of a long, enduring marriage, and not only that, but a friendship. They knew how to enjoy each other and to have great times together. They knew how to annoy each other too, but they always got over anything, and they loved each other, and I know my dad misses her greatly. More than anything, my mom loved Jesus, and that was evident in who she was as a person, how she loved her friends and family, and how she honored her husband. I miss her every day.
It was a privilege to have married into the Reycraft family. Pat was a super mother-in-law. She was funny, she had a quick wit, and but what I loved about her the most was she was respectful of our marriage. She loved our children, and she was just a great grandma and a great encouragement to me. She would ask about my work, and she would ask me, how can I pray for you? How I pray for you every day, she would say. And I just always appreciated her godly wisdom, her love for the Lord. She loved Bible study fellowship, which I attended for many years, and she just loved the Lord. She was a great mother-in-law, and I miss her every day.
Joe and Pat and Dan and I took lots of golf trips together. We played lots of rounds of golf, but one of the most memorable ones was when we went to Arizona. Joe and Pat were riding in the cart. Joe got just a little bit too close to a jumping cholla cactus, and as Pat got out, it jumped right into her backside. So they spent the rest of the evening pulling little cactus needles out of Pat's behind. You asked also for some favorite sayings of Pat's, and a couple that I can think of were, "Hit the ball, Agnes," and the other one was, "Well, we're young." But one of the things that I really wondered about with Pat was she always called Joe Tiger, and I've often wondered why. Rest in peace, Pat. We love you.
A few funny stories I remember about my mom. I remember a trip my senior year of college. She took me to Chicago at Christmas break. So we're in Chicago, it was beautiful, everything was decorated, and we went to the Christmas floor. And as we're coming off the elevator, there's this just giant tree with ornaments everywhere, just big ornaments. And my mom says out loud, "Those are the biggest balls I've ever seen." And for a senior in college, that was a little embarrassing. Another memory I have of a funny story is she visited me in Nashville. My mom and dad came, and we went to one of the honky-tonk dance bars, and there's a song that's a favorite in those bars, and it's called BS. And every so often the crowd shouts, BS! And my mom just was really into the song, and she kept yelling, all set, all set. So that was a good one. I remember my mom, as everyone does, as being a huge encourager. Constantly writing notes, sending me little gifts. I still have the last note she wrote me sitting on my kitchen counter. It just kind of helps me feel like she's with me with that beautiful handwriting and the beautiful card she sent.
So, my memory of Grandma is going to see Disney on Ice with her, Grandpa, and Joey when I was about 5 or 6. At the intermission, she let us pick out a souvenir, and I picked out a cup in the shape of the character Chip from Beauty and the Beast. Now, being about 5 or 6, I had not made the connection between the character's name, Chip, and the presence of a small chip in the side of the cup. So when I looked at it, I was like, Grandma, this cup has a chip in it. And Grandma being Grandma, she took that cup and marched right back to the salesperson and requested a new cup without a chip. Apparently, she also had not made the connection between the character's name, Chip, and the condition of the cup. Not entirely sure how that conversation with the salesperson went, but when I think back on it, it makes me smile. And I think this story just shows her personality and how she was always willing to go out of her way to make us grandkids feel special.
Hey, there are so many amazing things that I took away and learned from Grandma Pat over the years, and I have so many fond memories of her. And I'm so thankful that my kids had an opportunity to know her as well. One of the recent memories that I have with her is her and Grandpa driving across town not that long ago, and to bring some stuff over to our house for our kids. And I just remember her getting out of the car when she didn't need to, and it wasn't the easiest thing in the world, and she stood up to give me a hug. And I just remember her looking at me as she asked me how I was doing, and she always had a way of asking you about your life in a way that you knew that she was absolutely sincere about wanting to know about you, and just with such a caring, deliberate heart. And I was always struck by that it was never just something that you say because it's the polite thing to do when you interact with someone, which I think so many of us often fall into. But she was, Grandma really wanted to know how to pray for you and how to support you. And that meant so much to me, and I really want to take that with me, and I want to be that way. And I love her and miss her so much.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Gigi Family Joe.
Happy birthday
to you.
Five D6.
3. Jokes.
Jokes.
She say that.
Does she?
Yeah.
What's your favorite joke that Gigi Pat says?
Gigi Pat says this. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Light.
Light who?
Light the bar.
Light the bar?
Yeah.
Gigi Pat said that?
Yeah. She says, hi, Veronica. One thing that I remember about Gigi Pat was we always used to like go to BSF together, and we used to listen to like Bible study songs together in the car, just me and her. And I have many pictures of like her holding me when I was a baby, and that makes me feel special. And on Mother's Day, I went to Gigi Pat's grave to like put flowers on it and just try to remember her. And I just remember her being a part of the family, and one thing that me and her loved to do was go to Snuffy's, and we used to get everything like delicious there, and we would just have a lot of fun together. Love you, Gigi Pat. Miss you. I remember that Grandma was always happy and funny. I remember being in Grandma's house with the bathtubs.
We are just so incredibly grateful for everything that you've taught us. You've taught us generosity, you've taught us openness, you've taught us recipes, and you have such a special way of making everyone feel important. You've taught us about the importance of a prayer life, of commitment and relationship, and we can't be more grateful because we are who we are because of you. I can't think of a single memory growing up that doesn't involve my grandparents. It was always a given, whatever was going on, whatever holiday, well, we're gonna be at my grandparents. I distinctly remember always feeling so lucky that I got to see my grandparents every week at church. And, if not twice a week, we would see each other. And then holidays and birthdays, and always making a big deal about birthdays and just the importance of celebrating each other and family and people. And again, everyone's welcome at the table. And that was never more evident to me than when John came into my life, and the way you accepted him with open arms. And then you took that a step further and have open arms for his family. And the amount of gratefulness, the luckiness that I feel being able to just say, why don't you join us? And have that be not only okay, but welcomed it's just really so special and so incredible. And it just teaches me about having a spirit of the more the merrier, and the fuller the house and the louder the house, the happier we are, and the more love we can share with one another.
We will always think of our mom and fondly remember her isms with things like, every house works different.
She shines in other areas.
I choose joy.
Happy day.
And most importantly, don't leave home without your lipstick.